Good morning, everyone. Let's do it again. Good morning, everyone. So as you know, I'm Jim Lewis from Black & Veatch. And what I want to do, two points I want to make today. One is that engineering isn't a stagnant thing where you get your job and you do the same thing for the rest of your life. And the other thing I want you to take away is all the variety that you can have as an engineer. So with my first slide here, I wanted you to know I graduated from a small school in Leavenworth, Immaculata. And there was only 70 kids in my graduating class, and we didn't have calculus because we couldn't afford that many teachers. So I don't want you to think just because your program doesn't have all these specialty classes that you can't be an engineer. And then I want you to understand that when I was a senior, my counselors told me not to go into engineering because there weren't any jobs. Nothing could be less true. Okay, there's jobs. We have 400 openings at Black & Veatch alone. So when I was a junior at St. Benedict's College, which is now called Benedictine College in Atchison, KU advertised on that campus for engineers. I drove up here, asked what it would take, and they said I had to take 60 hours engineering and I could be an engineer. So I transferred to KU and finished that degree here. And when I tell people, they say, well, engineering's too hard. Calculus was the hardest thing I ever took. After that, engineering just makes sense. So don't let anybody talk you out of it because it's too hard. So I started Black & Veatch in '74. I was a structural engineer on a nuclear power plant. It's called Black Fox Station, and it was in Oklahoma. I did steel design and concrete design for those years. So then in '80, I took a field assignment because you may not know, but 1979, 3 Mile Island happened. And after that, no nuclear power was ever licensed in the United States. So I thought I needed to re-pedigree myself as a coal-fired engineer. So I went to the field in Iowa, and we built a 650 megawatt coal-fired plant. And when I returned, I took over project controls, which is the whole way you control projects with schedule and cost and metrics to keep them on schedule. And since these projects are like $500 million projects in the last 4 years, it's a very important part of the project. In '90, I became a commercial manager. That's the manager responsible for cost, schedule, and the contract with the client and all the procurement on coal and combined cycle projects. Combined cycle projects are using combustion turbines with heat recovery steam generators to drive steam turbines. It's a very efficient way to use natural gas. And then from '95 to 2001, I returned to nuclear, and we built two 1,100 megawatts enough for about 100,000, or for 1,000 people. 1 megawatt, 1,000 people, on the north coast of Taiwan. And we work for Taiwan Power Company. And so I finished that in '01, and I'm ready. And then that job was going really well, so they asked me to come back to corporate and manage the engineering, procurement, and construction for power plants. And then soon we merged our transmission line division, which does all the power lines and the substations. And then we merged our gas, oil, and chemical business. So I did engineering and procurement for that and construction. And then just recently, the chief administrative officer retired, and I was asked to take that job. And it's a totally different job, which lets me do things like this, which I love. So it's allowed me to participate outside in this. In Kansas City, we have the STEM Alliance, which is to drive science, technology, engineering, and math in K through 12. And it's very satisfying to see all the students that are interested in these programs for the future. This is our headquarters. One of the roles as Chief Administrative Officer is to be responsible for all facilities. We recently bought this building. It's our building. We had leased it, and we're in the process of remodeling it. So we're going to put we're doing the inside now because we want it to be nice for our employees. So we're redoing the HVAC, redoing the lighting to much more efficient and higher filter levels for HVAC. But before we finish, we're going to put a new front on it, with a grass roof, just to kind of signify, our desire to be sustainable. Next slide. So what we want is for all of our programs to improve the quality of life. Black & Veatch's tag is building a world of difference. And at first you might not see what we're talking about, but we need to go into the world and make people's lives better all over the world. And Asia, in South Africa, and all these countries where they have a low quality of power and water. Next slide. So just some statistics here. 25% of the world's population is without electricity. 70% of this growth will be in developing countries. So right now we're kind of looking at our staff and how do we move our staff to take advantage of these opportunities overseas. Next slide. The World Health Organization says 80% of all diseases come from dirty water and lack of access to clean water. If we have clean water, we can reduce 80% of those diseases. Every day, 30,000 people die from preventable water and hygiene issues. So again, we have a whole division dedicated to clean water and to water treatment and to sewage treatment. And those are things you don't have in a lot of the world. And that's how you can help make a difference. 1 billion people lack access to safe water. So if you think about that, 2.5 billion people lack access to adequate sanitation. So if you think of China, I think it's 1.3 billion, and India is 1.2 billion. That's the total number of people in those countries. Now, that's not where it all is, but that gives you a feel for the population. I have about 300 million people in the United States to frame that for you. So next slide. So here, I kind of want to do a little test because I was able to go out to Fort Hays to the Academy of Math and Science, and I found that there was not a clear understanding of what engineers do. So is there anybody here that could tell me the difference between an architect and an engineer? Yes, right here in front.
An architect builds stuff and an engineer fixes it.
I kind of like that, but let me hold that one more. He said an architect builds stuff and an engineer fixes it. So back here. Okay, so he says an architect designs buildings, an engineer does what? Invents, okay. Oh, it's right here.
Architects design the buildings and engineers build them.
The architects design them, engineers build them. So let me take all that. No, that's enough because we're pretty close. So architects design the building from the point of view that they lay it out. They draw the architectural renderings, which are like artistic renderings. They design the flow of people. So like this whole stadium, they would lay out how all the chairs are. Engineers design it. Architects, they design the layout, but engineers design the concrete and the steel and the brick that makes the buildings. Okay, so that's the difference between those two disciplines. The one that said engineers fix it, that's if I take that, that's what we say. We say they lay out buildings that we can't build and we have to fix it, but that's not very nice. So next slide.